Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Spinella. I'm a member of the Model Schools team here at the Morick. Today we're going to be talking about two different tools that you can use to record videos to provide for your students in a flipped classroom model. The first tool we'll be looking at today is Screencastify. Following Screencastify, I'll be showing you how you can record yourself using Google Meets to provide videos for your students to watch at home. Before we get started, could you please leave your name in the chat box if you have not already? This will help us to take attendance for today's session. In addition to your name, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat box. I'll be answering them as we move along through the session today. I am so happy that you're here with me, so let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look first at Screencastify. If you do not already have this extension installed into your Chrome web browser, we're going to need to install it. You can do that by going to the Chrome Web Store. So go to Google and then you're just going to type in Chrome Web Store. And it should be the first search option that pops up. Once you're into the Chrome Web Store, you can type in Screencastify. And I already have mine installed. Now, if you do not have yours installed, what you'll see is you'll see a blue button that looks just like this one here on the screen that will say Add to Chrome. You're going to go ahead and click that. Now, once you have your Screencastify extension installed into your Chrome web browser, it's going to appear up here to the right of your URL bar. If for some reason you cannot view the extension, you can click this little puzzle piece icon, and then you can click on the pin located right next to the Screencastify name. That pin is going to pin that extension right there so that it is easily accessible for you when you need it. Once your extension is installed, you'll be ready to start recording. One useful tool you can use when you're doing screen recordings to share out with your students is called Jamboard, and it is a Google tool. So I'm going to pull up Jamboard right now because I want to show you how that can be used when you're doing a screen recording. I'm going to click on this waffle icon here on my Google homepage, and I'm going to scroll down until I see the word Jamboard. Mine is right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And what Jamboard is it's an interactive whiteboard. And it's great because it allows you to draw right on your screen, but it would also allow you to collaborate with students in real time if this is something that you wanted to use, say, for example, during a Google Meet, or even in the classroom live if you wanted your students to be on their devices and all collaborating at the same time on this whiteboard. It's a great tool. So let's get into this. I'm going to hit this plus icon here at the bottom to start a new jam. Okay, so when you get into Jamboard, this is what it's going to look like, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details about Jamboard. I just really today want to focus on how you can use this to annotate on your screen as you're doing a screen recording. Okay, one thing I do want to mention though that could be helpful to some of you is this background feature. When you click on this background feature, you'll notice that you have pre-created backgrounds that become available for you. So for example, I can put in lines here. If I'm talking about a math concept, I also have grid paper that I could have as my background. So just some useful information for you as you're annotating on your screen. It'll make it a little easier when you are writing for students. Okay, another tool that I want to point out quickly before we get started with screen recording is this pen icon over here to the right. So this is what you're going to use to actually write on this virtual dry erase board. So when I click the pen icon, I have the selection of the different types of pens that I can use, and I have the selection of different colors. Okay, so when I'm writing on my board, I can change colors for my students. Okay, so I'm going to use this screen to kind of show you a screen recording, and then I'll also show you kind of how you can insert yourself into a screen recording as well. So let's go back to our extension here in our extension bar, and I'm going to click on the Screencastify extension. And I'm going to get a pop-up window that appears that's going to give me a couple of different options. So I have an option of what I would like to record. I have a browser tab, which would mean that I am just recording a tab within my Chrome web browser. Now, one thing to caution you about when you're using a browser tab, if you're switching between multiple tabs, you need to let the extension know that you have switched tabs. Otherwise, it will keep recording the same tab. So for example, if I'm on a Jamboard, but then I need for some reason to go to my Google Classroom, I would need to let the extension know that I have switched tabs now. I'm no longer on Jamboard, I'm now in my Google Classroom, so that it is following me with the recording over to the new tab. If it's a recording that you're going to be jumping around a lot in, I would use this desktop option, because what that's going to do is it's going to record your whole screen. That way you don't have to worry about switching tabs as you move around the screen. And then this webcam option will record just you on video, okay? One thing I do want to say about recordings is if you're using the free version of Screencastify, you do have a 5-minute limit. So most flipped classroom videos are going to be less than 10 minutes. I would say cap it at 10 minutes max, okay? And you want to cap it at 10 minutes as a maximum, because if your students are not watching your recordings at home, you want to provide them classroom time when they come in the next day to make up that work that was not completed prior. So by limiting it at 10 minutes, you're not taking up too much of your classwork time with students completing unfinished pre-work. Okay, so with that said, you could easily do a 5-minute recording with the free version and mark it part 1, and then you could do an additional recording and mark it part 2. So your students would watch the first part, and then they could watch the second part. So it's a little limiting, yes, in that you only have a 5-minute time span, but there are workarounds to make it work for you and for your students. Okay, so once you decide what you're going to record, you're going to need to make sure that you have enabled your microphone. So you'll do that by switching this toggle right here next to the word microphone. And if you have an external mic, you will select your external mic from the list that is included here. You can see I don't have an external mic installed on my computer, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Next to this, you'll also see this little microphone icon and this green bar. You'll notice that the green bar is going up and down. That tells me that the microphone is registering my voice and it is working. So that's just something nice to check before you get started with your recording. Below that, you have embed webcam. So I had mentioned briefly when I was explaining these options that you have the option to include a video of yourself on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to keep this option here so you can see what I mean by an embed webcam. And again, if you have an external camera, which I do not, it would appear here in the drop-down menu. Okay, now this is the same thing as your microphone. You can turn this on or off. So if it's not something you want your students to see as you're working through, you could easily shut the webcam off so that it's just a screen recording. Okay, so now I'm going to get started. I'm going to hit record, and I just want to show you what it's going to look like from my end to start recording. So I'll hit the word record. You're going to see my webcam. It appears here in the bottom corner. And here I'm asked what I would like to record. So I have the option of recording my entire screen, or I have the option of just recording an application window. I'm going to record my entire screen so that you can see my webcam as well as my screen. And with your students, I recommend using the embed webcam feature. It is uncomfortable when we're just starting out with videos to see ourselves on videos. I'm speaking personally here. But I think it's really important because it gives your students that familiar face that they want to see. You are that comfort and that safe place for them, and they want to see you. So kind of try to push yourself outside of that comfort zone and make yourself seen on the videos as well as heard. Okay, so I'm going to click my entire screen, and I'm going to click the word share. And now I'm going to start recording. So you'll notice I have a countdown, and now it is recording. So if I wanted to, I could start explaining to my students on my Jamboard. I'm going to click my pen icon so I could draw right here for my students what it is I'm trying to say. Okay, and then they can watch me in real time. And what is wonderful about this is when I record my lessons, my students now have the option to go back and watch them at their own pace. So they can stop, they can back up, they can fast forward. It really is customizable to them and their needs. So once I'm done with my screen recording, I'm going to come here in the bottom bar and I'll hit the pause button. Before I do that, I want to talk to you about a couple of tools that you have available to you while recording. Okay, so the first is this mouse pointer, and if you hover over that, you'll notice that you have a couple of different selections. So this option is your focus mode, and this will give you a light right around your cursor. I think this could be really helpful if you are displaying a text for your students and you're screen recording a reading of the text, because your focus mode could focus on the words that you're reading as you're reading them. So it's really bringing their attention to that specific word or text that you are focusing on. Okay, if I go back here, I also can hide my cursor when it's not being moved. So if it's a distraction to my students to see the cursor, it can be hidden when I'm not moving. I also have my highlight clicks. I like this. This is personally the one that I choose to use. So I'm going to unclick the focus mode and I'm going to click onto the highlight clicks because it will highlight where you are clicking on the screen. So for example, if I was coming over here to the sidebar, you could see where it is that I'm clicking. So it's easier to follow my mouse around the screen by tracing that little red circle so my students know exactly where I am. Okay. Next to that, you also have a pen option, so you can annotate right on the screen using just Screencastify. Okay, so if I was looking at a reading or a website, I could use this pen icon in my screen recording. I could select the color that I want, and then I could go and I could annotate right on the screen. So for example, maybe I want to go through and circle all the P's as I'm talking to my students about the letter P of the week. Okay, so that's a nice tool as well. I also have the eraser icon, so if I make an error, I can erase it. This icon here will allow me to embed my webcam. So if I start recording and I decide that I want to use my webcam, I can embed it and it will appear in the smaller window here. The X will hide the tools for me. Okay, so that is your options that you have while you're recording. Another thing before I stop my recording that I want to talk to you about is the webcam option. So you'll notice that it defaults to the bottom right hand corner. I do have the option to move it around my screen. So if there's something that in the way or the recording is blocking some text, I can move it around the screen. Okay, so I stop my recording by hitting the stop button, and now you'll see it automatically brings me to this page that shows my recording. On this page, I have a couple of options that I want to walk through with you. Up here in the right-hand corner, you'll see this sidebar. So you'll notice that it's automatically saving to my Google Drive. So when I set up my Screencastify, I log in through my Google account. So it automatically uploads right to my Google Drive for me. I also have this option to copy a shareable link. So if I wanted to, I could easily just share a link to this recording with family or with my students, and then they have access to it right away. Okay. I also have the ability to share it to my classroom. So once this is fully uploaded to my Google Drive, I can share it right to my classroom. I also have the ability to publish to YouTube. So I will caution that students younger than 13 need parental consent to access YouTube. So that may be something you want to keep in mind if you're thinking about publishing your videos to YouTube. You also have the ability to get an embed code. So if you have a website, you can click Get Embed Code and it will provide you with the embed code that you will need. So all you need to do is you'll highlight this, copy, and then you can paste it into the embed area of your website. So if you're using Google Sites, you can click that embed icon and it will embed it right into your Google site. Now, for those of you that may not have access to Google Drive, you also have a download function. So here you can click this drop-down menu and you can see that you can download. You can export this as an MP4. Now, MP4 will allow you to share the video in a lot of different formats. Okay, so that may be a good option for you to use if you're using it somewhere other than your classroom or in Google Drive. So MP4 is something to keep in mind. You can also just export the audio. So if you do a screen recording, but you only want your students hearing your voice, you can export just the audio. So they wouldn't have the visual piece to it, they would just have the audio piece to it. So this would be very useful if you're giving directions, or if you are, again, reading, or just giving something your students need to hear your voice for, but not necessarily see you. Okay, and then you can also make a GIF or a GIF with your recording. Okay, so that's the sidebar on the right. Okay, so that recording was taking a little long to upload, so I'm going to pull up a new recording because I want to talk to you about this open an editor option that you have available. Now, this is a paid feature, so if your district has chosen to purchase Screencastify, this may be an option that is available to you. If your district chooses not to purchase Screencastify, this would not be an option that you have available to you. But when I click Open an Editor, I'm going to be brought to a screen that will allow me to edit my videos. Okay, and I love this about Screencastify because it is very user-friendly. Some of the other video services available are a little bit more tricky to use. Screencastify is very straightforward and it's very user-friendly for you to edit videos. Now keep in mind, even if you don't have the paid version, if you're teaching in a live classroom, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be errors. So that's going to be expected. Don't feel that your videos have to be quote unquote perfect. Okay, if you make a mistake, that's okay. Laugh at it and move on. Your students are going to understand, and you're going to learn as you continue to make your videos and you become more comfortable. So please don't feel that your videos need to be edited to perfection. Because that's not real life in the classroom, so that's not going to be real life online either. So let's get into the editor options here. The first thing that I want to show you that I use often is this zoom function here in the bottom right hand corner. When I zoom in, you'll notice that those lines on my recording get much larger. Okay, I like this function because when I'm cutting my film or my video, it makes it a lot easier to trim video to kind of take out those areas that I don't need. Okay, so what will happen is you'll notice when I hover over my frames here that there's a white line. I'm going to click so you can see this white line here will show me where it is I am in my video. Okay, you'll see a yellow box also around the video that tells me what frame I'm currently working with. Okay, so as I'm moving this white bar around in my frames, that's going to allow me to make some adjustments. So let's say, for example, sometimes in my videos I like to leave some blank space in the beginning before I start my recording, just so that it gives my camera time to catch up. And I'm prepared after the countdown. So let's say I need to trim off some empty space that I don't need in the beginning of my film. I can put my little white bar where I need it to cut, and I'm going to use the scissor icon. And you'll notice now that my frame split. So I have one frame here, and I have the rest of my video here. If I wanted to, I could click this frame, and I can click this trash can, and it will delete just that frame. Okay, you'll also know notice I have this crop option. So if I'm trying to get rid of any extra space around my recording, I can hit this crop option. And now what I can do is I can come up to my actual recording here on the top screen, and I can draw a rectangle around just what I want my audience to be able to view. So if there's anything extra in the video that may get distracting to my students, I can crop that out. Once I have that set, I can hit done. And now when my students look at that frame, that's all they will see. Okay. I have a zoom option here. So if there's a specific part of my recording that I want to zoom in on to really draw my students' attention in, I can use this zoom feature. I can make it larger or smaller. and it will zoom into that part of the clip. This T will add text to my clip. So you'll notice when I click that T that this red bar appeared over the top of my video clip. I'm going to click up here where it says write something. I'm going to say welcome to Screencastify. Okay. My text will only appear where that red bar appears over the film. So it will end at this part of my video and it will not continue. If I hover over the end of this red bar, I can shrink the amount of time that you are seeing that text. So maybe I just want to do an introduction to the video and I want it to be very brief. I can make it smaller by dragging it in. I can also lengthen it out and make it larger as needed. When I click on this text, you'll also know that I have options to format the text. So I can make it bold, italicize, underline. I can change the color of the font. Okay. Highlight it. I can change the background. I can change the font style, the size, the alignment. So a lot of different options to make it completely customizable to my videos and what it is that I am trying to showcase to my students. And again, these are all features that are included in the paid version. I did want to just mention them briefly in case your district has decided to purchase. Now, if you put something in here, so if you put text in here and you decide, I really don't like the way that looks, I don't want that there, you can click on the text, make sure that it's highlighted in yellow, and then click this trash icon and it will delete it for you. So you don't need to worry about having something there. Same with this zoom. If I decide I really don't want it to zoom there, I can click on it. I'll notice that's what I am working with because it's highlighted in yellow. I'll click the trash icon and it will delete. Okay, so that's some options you have with the editor. Once you're done with your editing, you can hit this export button and it will export either to an MP4 or to your Google Drive, depending on what you choose. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to bring you back to that main screen we were just on. Because what I want to talk to you about is this menu option here on the left. So you'll see these three lines here up in the left-hand corner. When you click those, you have some more options that you can choose from. The first is your My Recordings. So you can view recordings that you have done through Screencastify. So anytime you do a recording through Screencastify, it's going to be saved right here in your My Recordings. So even if you don't have access to a Google Drive, you can still access your recordings right here through Screencastify. Another way you can locate your My Recordings is by clicking on this extension icon again. And this icon up at the top that looks like a square with a play button in the middle will actually bring you to your recordings as well. Okay, I'm going to go back to that menu. You also have an option for feedback and help, creating a new project or a new recording. And then this option is nice. Switch accounts. So let's say, for example, you have a personal account with recordings and you have a school account with recordings. And for some reason, you need to switch to your personal account. You can just click switch account and then you can choose what account it is that you would like to switch to. And once you switch, then it will bring you to that new account. Okay. You also have that option by clicking on the extension icon here, clicking the three lines, and you have that switch account option that I just talked about here as well. Through the extension, you also have option to access the editor. So if this is a paid extension that you're using, you have that editing tool right here to access for you. So if you're not sure if you have the paid version or the free version, you can click My Subscription and it will pull up your subscription information for you. One other useful tool that you can find on this drop-down menu, and this is when I click on my extension, is this sign out feature. And I say this is useful because if you're on a shared computer, you're going to want to ensure that you are signed out of your Screencastify account. So when you leave a computer, if you are logged into your Chrome web browser, anyone that gets on that computer can then access your Screencastify recordings. So they can get in and they can access any videos that you have made. So if you're on a shared account or a shared device, you may want to just sign out so you know who has access to those videos and you have control over that. Okay, so that's an overview of screen recordings, but really quickly I want to touch on the webcam option. So both of the browser tab and the desktop are screen recording options, but if I click on webcam, I want to talk to you about this option as well. So again, you can choose to have your microphone enabled or disabled, and you can choose what camera you would like your students to see you on. One thing I did forget to mention when I was talking about screen recordings that I want to touch on quickly is these show more options that appear here at the bottom. Okay, when I click on that, you'll notice that I have a couple of different options that become available to me. The countdown is that countdown that you saw when I started my recording. So it said 3, 2, 1, and then it started recording. So you can set the countdown to 3, 5, or 10 seconds depending on your comfort level, and that will just count you down so you have a little bit of time to prepare yourself before you actually start recording. You also have the option to show drawing tools. So I showed you how you could annotate on the screen using those drawing tools. You can enable that or you can disable that depending on what you need. I really like this feature, the tab audio, because if you are doing a screen recording of a Chrome screen and you're showing a video, you need to enable this to hear the audio. So if you're recording a Chrome tab for whatever reason and you need to be able to hear the audio, make sure you toggle that switch on because that's going to record the audio that is playing within that tab as well. Okay. Now if I go to desktop, you'll notice that a few of those options have gone away, but I still do have the countdown and the drawing tools option. So again, let's talk about the webcam quickly. So you'll see that I have the countdown option. I want to set this to 10 because it's going to be recording my face now, so I need to make sure that I am positioned correctly in the camera and you can see me and my lighting is okay. So I'm going to set that. Let's hit record. And now what you'll see, instead of seeing my screen, you now see me. So now I'm being recorded as an entire screen. So this is a great option if you're just trying to present yourself and not any of the material on your screen. I'm going to hit stop here on the screen. And again, this is going to bring you back to that editing screen that I had talked to you about earlier. So this is a brief overview of Screencastify, one of the 2 tools we're going to be talking about today. Next, we're going to talk about Google Meets and how that can be used to record yourself to share out videos for your students to watch prior to coming into the classroom and really digging deep into that knowledge that you want them to gain from your lessons. Okay, so now let's take a look at how you can use Google Meets to do recordings that you can share out with your students as pre-work before they come into the classroom, so that when they're in the classroom with you, you really can dig deeper into their understanding of the knowledge that you're teaching. So we're going to start by going to meet.google.com. And I'm going to click this icon here that says join or start a meeting. Now I'm not going to enter a nickname today. You do have the option to enter a nickname if you so choose. Because it's just me, I really don't need that option, but maybe you and a co-teacher are looking to do a recording together. This could be helpful to enter a nickname so that you both could join a meet together and then you could screen record from there. But I'm just going to hit continue for now. And you'll notice I'm met with a prompt so I can see my camera prior to starting, so I can adjust the angle so that it's at a better angle. I can adjust the lighting, whatever I need to do before I actually join the meeting. I'm going to hit join now. And I'm going to exit out of here because I don't want to add anyone else. Okay, so now what I can do is I can do a recording of just my webcam. So similar to Screencastify when I talked about just recording your webcam, this would be a workaround if you don't have access to Screencastify. So I can click on these 3 dots and I can hit record meeting. I'm going to accept for consent. And in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see this record option turn red. And now I'm recording. So whatever I'm saying now is being recorded. When I'm done, I can go back to those three dots and hit stop recording. Okay, so now that's going to be added to my Google Drive. I will also receive an email with that link sharing that recording. So once I have that in my drive, I can then share it out to my students. I can put it in Google Classroom. I can share it on a website, wherever it is that I want to share, but it's already saved for me. Now that's great if you want to do a web recording of yourself. Let's talk about if you want to record your screen. So to do that, you're going to present your screen. So you'll click present now, and then you'll get to choose what you want to present. So you can present your entire screen, a window, or a Chrome tab. The entire screen option is nice, again, if you are having to jump from tab to tab within your Chrome web browser. So what happens when you're jumping from tab to tab is that you need to tell Google Meets that you're switching tabs so that it knows to record a different screen or to present a different screen. So if you are just staying to one tab, the Chrome web tab is a good option. If you're jumping around a lot, your entire screen or a window might be a better option for you. Okay, so I'm going to choose a window, and I'm going to select this window here that I have open, and I'm going to click share. So now what's happening is I am presenting that window. So you can see here, if I click on presentation, I can see exactly what it is that's being presented. So now what I can do is I can minimize this screen, and now I'm just on my presentation screen. So now I can go and I can present the information needed for my class. So I can, again, pull up a Jamboard. Maybe there's an article or a website I want to look at with my class. Whatever it is that I want to present, I can do it right on this screen. When I'm done presenting, I can go back to my Google Meet and I can stop presenting, or I can just stop the recording. I'm going to click stop recording. Okay, so once you stop your recording on your Google Meet, you will get an email that I had mentioned with the link to your recording. It will also be saved to your Google Drive. So let's take a look at that. When I go to my Google Drive, I'm going to click my Drive icon here, or I can go to drive.google.com. I will have a folder labeled Meet Recordings, and this is automatically generated once you do your first Meet recording. If I click on this, I will see all of the Meet recordings that I have saved or that I have recorded in Google Meets. Now, if I'm looking to share a Google Meet recording with my students or with families, I can click on this record. I can click on the video. And I can click these three dots up here at the top, and I'm going to click this share icon. And down here in the bottom of the screen, you'll notice that it automatically defaults to only sharing with those that are within my organization. So for example, I'm at the MORIC, so right now only people with the MORIC email address could view this video. If I'm sharing with students, that won't be a problem because they're going to have the same email address that I would, because we're both going to be located in the same domain, which would be our school. However, if there are videos that I want families also to have access to, I'm going to need to change my share settings. To do that, I'm going to click on this blue link here. And instead of anyone at the MORIC, I'm going to change it to anyone with the link. And now I can copy this link and I can share it in my Google Classroom. I could put it on a website. I could embed it into an email. Wherever I feel that it would be beneficial for my families to have access to this link, I can share it out. Okay. If I pull up my email, you can also see here that my screen recording has been sent to me, and I can open it directly in Drive from this email as well. Unlike Screencastify, Google Meet does not have a way to edit your videos. So it's kind of a one-shot deal. You record what you have, and there's no outtakes, there's no editing. So that's something to keep in mind. But at the same time, if you don't have the paid version of Screencastify, you also don't have that option. So I just want to make sure that that information is available for you so that you are choosing the best tool for you. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind when you are talking about recording with Google Meets is you don't have that annotation tool. Now that is something that is coming in the future to Google Meets, where you will have a digital whiteboard available to you. If that's something you need now though, I would again recommend just pulling up a Jamboard, sharing your screen, and then recording yourself that way. So something else to keep in mind with when you're recording with Google Meets is that you're not going to have yourself on the screen as large as you will when you talk about that embedded webcam on Screencastify. So when I do my recording, you're still going to see me over here in the corner. However, the majority of the screen is going to be what I'm presenting to my students, whether that be a Jamboard or a website. So it's going to be a little bit harder to see me in an embedded webcam version with Google Meets versus a Screencastify. So that's just something else to keep in mind. So we talked about two different options today. We talked about Screencastify, which is an extension that you can add to your Chrome web browser. It will allow you to do screen recordings, or it will allow you to do webcam recordings. We also talked about how you can use Google Meet as a tool to record yourself to provide video for your students in a flipped classroom model. I hope that you found some tips and tricks helpful today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to support you in any way that I can. If you have not already, please make sure that you have put your name into the chat box for attendance purposes and leave any remaining questions in the chat box that you may have after our session today, and I will answer them as we wrap up. I want to thank you all for joining me and thank you for spending your time with me. I hope that your summers are going well and that you are enjoying the last little bit of summer that we have and are looking forward to a great school year. Thank you again.